Hi, and welcome to Mike Likes Robots, where we share knowledge to accelerate robotics. And today I'm doing day 5 of Advent of Code, which, again, as I say in every video, is not robotics, but it is good fun, and I encourage you to give it a try if you haven't yet. So let's take a look at day 5, which is called Print Queue. I'm now going to read through the puzzle and cut to when I'm done, and then I'll explain what the puzzle is about. Okay, so today's puzzle seems to have a little more to it. We've got two sections to parse. The first is a list of rules, and the second is a set of pages. So for each rule, the left number needs to appear in the list before the right number. Now we need to take, for each row, we need to figure out if the rules are correctly followed, and if they are, take the middle number. And then over the complete set, we'll add all the middle numbers together of the correctly ordered rows. There's a bit more, slightly more complex parsing going on here. I have an idea of how I'm going to do this. The puzzle is already hinting at what part 2 will be about, which is that at the moment we're ignoring the rules about missing page numbers. So it's probable that part 2 will include some figuring out of which page numbers are missing and inserting them so that it's correctly ordered, for example. Although I don't think that's possible, but we'll see what comes. So the idea I have to solve for part 1 doesn't immediately lend itself to finding missing page numbers for part 2, but I'm going to code it anyway, and we'll see how it goes. And the idea is that I'm going to take the second number of each of these rules and use it as the key in a hash map. The hash map value will be a list of all the page numbers that need to come before it. Then, when I'm checking which reports are valid for each new number I add on, I can take a look in the hash map and see if there are any pages that come after it. So the pages that all should be before it, I can now check the remaining row that I haven't checked yet, and if any of the prior pages are after it, then it violates the rule. I think that should solve the problem, so I'm going to go ahead and switch over to VS Code and kick off a new project. CD into 2024, we'll do a cargo new day 05. And we'll code -r dot. Okay, we can cargo run and get hello world. There it is. And now I'm going to save the puzzle input, or rather the test input for the puzzle. Okay, today I am going to start off with doing some test configuration. This will give me the chance to test the parsing for simple rules, for example. So I can say that my string is, I'm going to create one rule, which will be 47 type 48. I'll use new lines to separate the puzzle out, and then I'll give it an example row, which will be 47, 48. This is valid, so this test should say that it's okay. Although one thing that we should do is create a third character, a third number, so that we can easily tell which is the middle number and check that that is reported correctly. So I'll repeat this. I'm going to test the invalid row is okay. And in this case, I'll put 48 before 47. Now I need to have some way of processing this input. So I'm going to start off creating a struct for that. This is going to be the print queue checker struct, which will contain a map of the rules. So let's start with that. Rules will be a hash map, which will take an i32 as a key and a vector of i32 as the value. We also want the rows. I can't remember if it had a name like a report. I think it's page numbers. So you page numbers. Which will be a vector of i32. Okay, let's implement. Oh, we need to import hashmap. And let's implement from str for print queue checker. I think there's a few types of errors that can occur. We'll start with parse failure, and we'll take it out if we end up not using it. Okay, so we need type error is print queue checker error. All right, let's start parsing the input. I'll rename this puzzle. I'll call it puzzle iter is puzzle.iter. The rules will be puzzle iter.take. Don't know why it won't autocomplete that. That makes me think there's something wrong with what I've written. This should be an enum. Found unit type, so I need to return OK. Or print queue checker, where rules are hashmap new, and the page numbers are an empty vector. I'm just getting rid of all the compiler errors so that it will autocomplete. Function from str. I should be putting that there. Then that's happier. I need lines, not iter. Okay. Now I should be able to take while, and then the line is empty. Okay, so what this will do is give me an iterator over the puzzle input for all the lines before the blank line. So I can now parse this, which will be a map. So for each line, I'm going to let L is, oh, sorry, let left right is, I think I tried to do this before and it didn't work, but I'm going to do it again. See if I can figure out this time how to do it right. No, it always collects into a vector in the examples. Okay, never mind. Never mind. All right, let's do numbers. That left is numbers.get. We need to collect this into a vector. Collect vec of i32. It needs to be an anstra, not an i32. There we go. So now I can do numbers.get, which gives me an option. That's what I want. So I can get 0, question mark, dot parse, question mark. And I hope by doing that, that I can take out the errors very easily. So I am going to remove this, and I'm going to use the anyhow error that I used on day 3. So be sure to check out that video if you want to see that being used. So I will cargo add anyhow. And add anyhow error. This does return an option, so that should be fine. It's because the map. So I need to filter map this, which will ignore all the lines that are invalid, unfortunately. And now it's probably complaining at me that it doesn't return anything, or it doesn't return a bool, or an option, or a result. But I am returning an error result, I'm just not returning an OK result. So left and right, that's fine. So I will just return a tuple of left and right, and I'll surround it in OK. Oh, some? No, because I want to return an error. Okay, parse gives me an error, so I need to do .ok. That makes it all right. And it wants an option as a result. And it can't work out what type of integer to parse it as, so I will type parameterize it. Yeah. Okay. This needs to be 1, and then I think this is Clippy. Try numbers dot first. Okay. I think that's honestly a bad move because I'm getting 0 and getting 1, so now the two lines are different. I don't know if I can just ignore that Clippy error. I don't know if I can do ignore, maybe? I'm not sure. I'm going to use first just to make Clippy happy, and after the video I will look up how to ignore things from Clippy. Okay, so this rules is now an iterator that contains tuples of left and right, and I need to push them all into a vector. Into a hash map. So what I can do here is I can do a let mute rules equals hash map new. Oops, that's going to have imported something I didn't want. There it is. Let mute rules needs type annotations, not if I plug it in here. In fact, I will remove the let rules, and I will dot for each of left, and right. I will insert it into the rules. So it will be rules.entry, the key, which is the right dot, or insert, which will be an empty vector dot push left. And I think that's now okay. This needs to be Is that not all right? It matches but has different indentation. This is odd. Okay, so let me space this out. I'm not sure what's going wrong here. Dot filter map. This is the result. This is what's being executed inside that filter map. Dot for each, which takes... I need the other round bracket here. That's why it's upset. And then I think... No, that's right. And then that's the other bracket. There we go. Type cannot be dereferenced. There we go. That's better. Right. So that should be our rules set built. Now the next part is to iterate over the numbers. Okay, so rules. Oh, sorry. This should be puzzle iter dot skip 1 because we want to skip the blank line. Then we want to just iterate over it. Dot map. And I want to create a vector of these. So what I want to do is take a line and turn it into an L dot split by the comma, and then collect. Then collect that. That becomes page numbers. And then we plug it into the structure to return it. It needs I32s. Okay, so we need to make this slightly more complicated. And we probably want to filter map to take out any that don't work. So I am going to dot map some integer x dot parse. That should directly return the result, and then I can collect it after that. Okay. Okay. Puzzle iter is moved. I don't want it to move. Okay, I'm trying to be too clever here. So instead of creating an iterator that I save across uses, I'm instead going to create it here. So this will be puzzle.lines, .take while, then page numbers will be puzzle.lines. It will skip while x is not empty. Then it will skip one more. Then it will do everything else. Okay, that's happy. So at this point, we know how to do the rest of the test. We can let checker is print q checker from str input dot unwrap. In fact, we can use this test to check the rules functioned okay. So we'll comment these out and we'll say assert equals checker.rules is that's going to be a hash map. So let expected rules equals hash. Let rules equals hash map new mutable rules dot push. It will be 48 will have an array of 47, but this needs to be a vec. That should be it. So then I can check it against expected rules, and I can check that checker dot page numbers is a vec of vec containing 47, 48, and 49. With that, we'll test our parsing logic, which did not work. Okay. Insert. And then I need to return rules from this closure. There we go. So what I'm doing here, I haven't really explained much. I don't know of a way of doing inline hash map initialization. So what I tend to do is wrap it in a block. I create a mutable hash map. I insert all the values that I want into it, and then I return it from the block. And that means that the expected rules hash map that is returned from the block, I save to an immutable variable. I could do something similar by just saying let rules equals rules, because that will overwrite it to become immutable, and then I would name it expected rules at this point. But I tend to like wrapping it in a block because it makes it clear that this logic only belongs to the initialization of this variable. That's why I do that. From this point, I can cargo test. That is valid. So now we can go on to making the solution. Simple print queue checker function part A. Take a reference to self and return an I32. Okay, so we're doing part A, which returns an I32. Let's put a 0 here so that it continues compiling correctly. Next, I want to excuse me. Want to go over all the page numbers. So self.pagenumbers.iter. I'm going to filter out the ones that don't match the rules. So for this ordering, I'm just going to put false here for now. But I will take it out if it does not match the rules. Then I would like to take the middle number, which will take the order again, and will return order.get. Order.length over 2. And if I make this, I mean, I can just use square brackets because it's guaranteed to be inside this vector unless the vector is of 0 length. At that point, I wouldn't have it in my page ordering. So I'm going to use square brackets to take it and then use the sum. Okay, so that should be our part A written as long as I can write this filter. So I'm going to iterate over the filter, and I'm going to track the index I'm currently checking. So for index val in order.iter.enumerate, I will check if the value is in the rules. Let rule is equal to self.rules.get val. I'm not sure why this is complaining. I think it needs brackets. but I still need to return something. Okay, that's fine. So that's the rule. I don't know if I can question mark here. No. So I think I just need to match on it. If it's some rule, then return the rule. If it's none, then return. Essentially, oh, continue. That's better. Yeah. So for each number, if it has a rule, check the rule. If it doesn't have a rule, go to the next number. So in this case, if we get to this point in the code, there is a rule. Rule is a valid thing. So we need to check that none of the numbers in the rule array appears in the remaining ordering. So let's say rule val in rule, if rule val, if, I think I can slice vectors. So let's say order index dot. This is a range, which is like from index upwards. I hope that will work. It seems to understand what I mean. So if it contains rule val, then return false. That should actually be it. So let's check our tests. We want cert not check. Actually, no, we want checker part A to be 48 because it's valid. And we want checker in invalid row to be 0 because it is invalid. And why are you unhappy with that? Okay. Test puzzle passes correctly. Let's take a look at that. Okay. Cargo test 3 OKs. So, all right, let's write the main function. In the main function, I will get the puzzle as an include string. /puzzle/test.text. Then I will create a checker, print q checker from str puzzle. And yesterday I did unwrap. I'm going to continue using expect messages, unable to parse checker. Yesterday I used unwrap because it wasn't able to fail, but today it is able to fail if I give it invalid input. So I will use a more understandable error message. Then I will print line part A is checker.part A. Now if I run this, what do I get? 143? 143. So it looks like I've got the right answer. So let's run this against a full input. In fact, I can do a regression test on this. Because I always save my test text files, I might as well check. So in this case, I'm going to include string test text. Include string will be /puzzle/test.text. And I want to check that it is a 143. Good. So now I can change this to input. I can cargo run. I can check the test works, and it does, and I can cargo run it, and I get this as a response. And that's the right answer. Excellent. So on to part 2. Right, so while they get to, I'll read through this. There's not much text to it, so let's see. Okay, so The update to the puzzle is to take the incorrectly ordered inputs and reorder them such that they are correct, and then sum up the middle numbers from those updates. I'm not entirely sure how to do the reordering off the top of my head. Nothing springs to mind. So I'll code the rest and see if I can come up with something on the way. Let's begin by writing a new test. This will be part A, and this will be part B. I'll run this against part B. I expect this to be 123. Create a new print line running against part B. And I will take a part B. And self returns an I32. Return 0, cargo test, part B should fail, it does, good. Now I'm thinking that we'll need to check if the rule is allowed. So I'm going to move this into its own function. I don't need it within print queue checker, but I will keep it there anyway. So I can take that. So for that, I want to test a particular order. So I want to test the order, which will be an anvec of I32. Is this set of numbers correct against the rules that I already have stored? So for that, I can copy all of this. Is that okay? It's not, because I don't return anything from check valid, but that should be a bool. And that is okay, right. So I should now be able to take this and turn it into filter. I should even be able to directly pass it the function. So I can do a checker, print queue checker, colon, check valid. If I don't give it any brackets, it should work out what arguments to pass automatically. Nope, it doesn't. Okay, that's fine. I will pass it an order. Order. Is that okay? Ah, right. It's because I need to self.checkValid. I'm going to try removing these again. I do like it when I can just pass in a function name to a filter. Expected one argument found 0. Okay, I have to use it. How about that? Okay, that's okay. So let's test it. If only one fails, then we're fine. Right. So I'm going to collapse all of this down. Now I have a check valid call, which I am likely to use in part B. Okay, so the reordering. Let's think. This is not allowed because presumably 75 and 97 have a rule. So if I check 75 and it is before 97, then I need to move it after 97. Okay, I can do that. Let's we'll iterate over the page numbers again. But we actually do need to mutate the order. But I can take a clone for that, so that's fine. So I'm going to iterate. Then for each one, I would like to map it. So the map will take an order and it will return the middle number of the correctly ordered ordering. So this will be an order. I'm going to return 0 just to code this function and then sum it. That should be valid. But it is not because I didn't dot sum. If I dot sum, then it's okay. Right. So for this map, I want to say while self.checkValid order. Oh, I should filter out any that are already in the correct order. That seems like a good idea. Filter the order. Only keep it if it is not valid. All right, so now this map should only run on the orders that are not correctly ordered already. Okay, so while it is not valid, we're going to do a reordering operation. But because I'm going to be mutating the order between runs of this while loop, I want to take a mutable version. So I want to take this and I want to iter and then to vec. Ooh, can I just to vec? I can. That should be a clone of it. So now I should be able to mutate the order clone and then keep running the while loop. Okay, so now I want to find a digit where a rule doesn't match. So it's the same for loop construction. I think I need brackets around this to tuple unpack. I do. And then I want to find a rule that doesn't match. So I can take this same if statement, but I don't want to return false. Okay. So now I want to find the index of the last value that makes the rule fail. So I would like to do if order index dot rev or reverse. Oh, this should be order clone. Order clone. If order clone dot reverse dot find, is it? No? Dot. No. Can I find on this? I can't. I can do this manually. Dot enumerate. Can I do that? No. Why can't I enumerate? All right. Let mute nums to check equals this dot iter dot reverse rev. That's what I wanted to begin with. I think I missed the iter here. How about that? Yeah, I need rev, and then I can't if on it. Yeah, that's perfect. All right, so for check index check val in, that's allowed. I want to let new index equals, and then I can return the index. Okay, so if I need the rule reference as well. So let's take this logic. Let's plug it in here. I don't need to further check if there is no val. Okay, so we're going through, we get the rule for a particular value. If there is no rule for it, we don't need to reorder it. Continue. However, if it is invalid, we do need to reorder it. So what we do is find the latest index that breaks the rule. So now we need to do rule dot contains check val. If the rule contains the check value, then return the new index. Return check index. Okay, so that should be the latest. Now we need to do the actual mutation. So we're going to do let old index new index equals 4. Now we're going to return old. Oh, no, we can return index and new index. Okay, so if we get to this point in the while loop, we should have the index. Like, there's no way we can't have the index because we would have continued if there wasn't a rule, which means that it's already, it doesn't need swapping. So what I need to do now is remove that particular index. So order clone dot remove. I need to save the number that I'm currently checking. So I will also return val and val. So this should remove an index. Yep, it does. So I can remove the old index. Now I need to order clone dot insert at a particular point index. That's what I want, which will be the new index minus 1 and the value. Okay, that I think should work. Mismatch types. While loops evaluate to unit type. That's fine. Oh, it's because it's mapping it. Right, so now I need to actually return the order clone, and I can, again, I can use the square brackets. Order clone dot length over 2. Why don't you like that? Expected use size found I32. I don't know why. I should always be returning an I32. So I'm not sure why you're expecting a use size. Let's fix this. If let sum I am sure that you can return values from for loops. Rust return value from for loop. Oops, how to return value from for loop. That's not what I want. Break A. Okay, so it looks like I can't do that. So I might have to do this more manually, which is okay. So let mute old index is 0. Let mute new index is 0. Let mute current val is 0. Let mute. I think that's okay. Let's go for. Do I want a 4? I guess I can loop. There's a real risk of having an infinite loop here. Essentially, I know what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to write it in a way that Rust is happy with, which I'm partially struggling with. So I mean, I could do something silly like found rule break is false. And then here, if found rule break, I mean, I'm guaranteed to find a rule break. That's the thing. So I don't even really need to do this, but I'll do it and I'll take it out if it proves to be unnecessary. So now I'm not continuing none, but I am found rule break is true. And then I'm saving those things. So I need let mute old index is 0, let mute new index is 0, and let mute val is 0. So at this point, I can set all of my things is index. New index is new. Oh, new index. I can't do that. Let rule index is rule. Okay. Turn. I think that's okay. And then we want replace val. Replace val is val. Now, if I do that, it will continue the for loop. So we need it to break. Okay, it doesn't like it because, see, I'm returning something from it, but actually, what I can do here is if rule.contains, then I can set it here. New index is check. Index break. Now I don't need this line, but I still need that line. Why can't I do that? I need to dereference it. And that says it's okay. So now I need to replace val. And I'll check this works before I remove the other thing. Infinite loop, excellent. That seems bad. Let's do it on a smaller test case and do some print lines to work out what's going on. So I'm going to change these to say part A and part A. And I want to repeat them for part B, except in the case of part B, when I execute part B, I should receive 0 for the valid one. Part B, and for the invalid one, I should move it so it's 47, 48, 49, which gives me 48. Okay, now this will still infinite loop. I don't know why, but I have a very small test case to check against. So now I can start doing some print lines and working out what's going on. Okay, let us repeatedly print out the current order. Order clone. If I do that, it doesn't print anything. Okay. While debugging, I will do something different. I will say for index in 0 to 5, we know there's only one possibility of it failing. But I will do if self.checkValid, order clone, then return false. No, break. Okay. So this function would still work if I'm able to make the order correct within 5 swaps. I only need 1 for this test case. So it looks like it's failing to swap. Do I get any print lines? Okay, I can get rid of this. But I don't seem to be getting any print lines. Okay, so it gives me 1 print line. And I should only break. Yeah, so it's not doing any swaps. So am I... That seems wrong. But apparently is right. So it's because I subtracted 1 from the new index. That feels really wrong to me, because the new index is referencing... I guess it's referencing the new element. So if everything shifts down 1, then the new one should be put into that index. So that is right. Okay. Okay, fair enough. Let's replace this. While it is not valid, then do something. Let's kill this and comment this. And then we'll reinstate this test and try it. Infinite loop. Okay, so it seems like there's some corner case. Maybe it takes 2 swaps instead of 1. Let's see if we can construct a use case which has 2 swaps instead of 1. If it's completely backwards, it would require 2 swaps. So let's say that 48 needs to go before 49. Then that should be 2 swaps. Let's try that. That's okay. So it's only the test case where it starts going wrong. I'm not sure why. So something is wrong in this logic. Let's reinstate the for loop for something in 0 to 5. Do that. If self.checkValid and order clone, then break. So, okay, so we get up to 10 swaps. Let's run that against test text part B, and this fails because... So it had 6 attempts at 61, 13, 29. Yeah, it used all its attempts on 2 of them, but it didn't fix them. Let's take the simple one right here, and we're going to test another invalid row. So this will be 61, it'll be 13 and 29. And now we need to figure out the rule from the test text that applies to. So 61 has several, 13 has several, And 29 has several. Okay, so 61, oh yeah, we only need rules where both of them apply. So 61 and 13 is one, 29 and 13 is another. And 13 is another. Are there any others? So no more from 13. So we'll look for 61 and 29 on the right. 61, 61, 61. They're all fine. 29, 61. So this is another rule. Okay. So from that, I expect this to take 10 attempts. From the rule, 61 needs to be before 13, 29 needs to be before 13, and 61 needs to be before 29. So the correct ordering of this is 61, 29, 13, which means that the correct value is 29. Let's cargo test that. Fails, which we expect, and it's putting 61 into the middle. Why is it putting 61 into the middle? Let's print line the variables when it does a swap. So we need to swapping remove from insert into which will be the replace val, old index, new index. Try that. Okay. Swapping 13. It removes from index 1 and inserts into 0. I don't know why. Why is it doing that? So in the rule, 61 needs to go behind 13, needs to go to the left of it. So I've just swapped it so that 61 goes after, which probably means my logic is inverted here. Yeah, so in my algorithm, 61 is ignored because it doesn't have a rule applied. 13 is used, it has a rule, which is that 61 is after it. So it looks through the rest of the array, or it should. I think that's probably where it's going wrong. It shouldn't be able to find 61 because it should only be searching the indices after that point. So let's take a look at that. Self.check valid, index, match.rules. Okay, here we go. So order clone from the index I'm currently checking onwards, that's 1 onwards, iterate, reverse, enumerate. I am at this point going to say, oh, right, it's because the enumerate is after the reverse. So what that means is, let's say my array is 61, 13, and 29. That means I'm checking index 1, and I want to check everything after it. Everything after it is a single slice, and it contains 29. So that's what this slice and iter does. Now I reverse this, which gives me 29 again, and then I enumerate it, which gives me 0. Gives me 0. So then when I do a swap, I swap position 0 with position 1, which is wrong because 29 is in position 2. So it's because of my logic here. So what I actually want to do is iterate, enumerate, skip index, reverse. Okay, that made that particular rule work. Okay, so that is still failing. It looks like it's still needing to do the 10 swaps, which is very strange. Why is that the case? Let's rerun this, except assert false, because I want to see the printouts when it thinks it's doing it correctly. That's exactly what I'm expecting. All right, so let's find another one. Actually, I want that. Let's find another test case that is failing. Cargo test. Looks like we get swapping 61, remove from 0, insert into 0. I don't know why it's doing that, because we literally have the same test case here. 61, 13, 29. And it does 10 swaps this way. I guess there's another rule that's confusing it. 61, 61, 61. Maybe if I put all the 61 rules in. Okay, I want to make this test case fail by giving it extra rules. So let's try and do that. By the end, it is still incorrect. 61, 29, 13. Yes. So I can give this extra rules. So let's say every rule that has 61 on the right. And these two. 1, 2. What happens now if I test? It failed. Another invalid row part B. Yeah, it failed, and it failed in the same way. So now I can extract each rule in turn. It doesn't mean there's a particular one wrong. It just means that anything with 61 on the right confuses it. Okay, so it looks like it's, because it's got a rule for 61, it's trying to swap it. And I'm not sure why, so let's start print lining that. I can remove these two lines, they were to explain. And then if there is a rule, that doesn't necessarily mean we need to do anything. So this is wrong. We actually need found rule break here. Still fails. Found rule break should be false, correct. If the rule contains the check value, maybe if I print line what I'm checking here. Checking. I'll do the index and the value. Check index, check value. So we have the rule. The rule is a vector of I32. If it contains the check value, print line, check value found. Found. Cargo test. And we are checking index 2, which is 29, which doesn't have anything. It does the same 3 checks over and over. I guess it's because if there is a rule, we need to check that it has a value. So it's probably swapping 61 to 61 because I have this 0 here. It's default 0, so I don't ever update it. So we never actually find a check value. So we never do this found rule break. Shouldn't this be here? And then we only break. Is that true? Apparently it is. And then we test again, and that passes. Okay, let me undo that and explain what I did. I realized that this if check and the swap is happening outside of the for loop. So if I collapse this down, it might read a bit easier. So I am every for loop updating these values, which is not necessarily the best thing to do. I wonder if I can fix it by doing this, and then there's no value. Yeah. Although I don't have test text part B. Yes. So that's the same logic. Okay, so what happens is I didn't break, so I overwrote the rules again on the next iteration. So every time it goes around this for loop, it checks these. Then it was breaking even though it hadn't found a rule had been broken. So yeah, this was just plain coding logic. Failed. Okay, so the test text is giving us the right result, so I should now be able to cargo run it and remove all the print lines that's slowing it down horribly. Let's try that again. Print line. Print line. And print line. Cargo run, 6017. Let's try it. That's not the right answer, it's too high. Okay. 6017 is too high. So I'll run my test again just to make sure. Okay, so we're in the nasty situation where we get the test text correct, but the real answer incorrect, which means this is going to need a lot more digging into. So for the first time, so I'm coming back because I've realized that I made a bit of a silly mistake, which is, if you recall writing this code while I was trying to debug what the problem was, I forgot that I had left this code in. I was suddenly so happy that the test cases passed that I forgot to reset this. So it seems like the test text cases have fewer than 10 swaps, but the input text has 10 or more in at least one row. And I checked this, so I can delete this for loop and reset it to the while loop that I previously had. I can rerun the test cases and they all now work. And I can now run cargo run and I get this value instead, 5502. And if I put this into the advent calendar, which I already did because I wanted to check whether I was being silly, that is the correct answer. So the implementation was very close to correct. It was just debug code left in to make it easier to print line that threw the answer off. So in that case, day 5 is finished. I'll be back tomorrow to attempt day 6 of Advent of Code. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you then.